evening, friends. Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. Right, it must have been while you were wearing my jeans. Good evening, friends. Good evening and welcome to Littleport Christian Spiritualists. Come on in, cuz. Take a seat. If you want a raffle ticket, see Mother. Welcome, one and all, to this Thursday evening at Littleport Village Hall. Both new friends, familiar friends, friends who've travelled 5 minutes like me, friends who've travelled hours all over the country. It's wonderful to see you all here tonight. And of course, welcome back to our online congregation. I apologise if the signal's a little bit wonky, but at least you can see and hear us, or at least I hope. That might change throughout the night, but I will keep unplugging and plugging back in to make sure that it works. And then we've got some bad news. Well, don't sound too upset about it. We've got some bad news. Because next week the hall, you'll see why I did that in a second. Because next week the hall is in use by the Panto. Well, they're not doing a Panto because it's summer, but by, oh yes, it is. The reason I call them the Panto group is because I used to do Panto with them. The Littleport players are making use of the hall for a dress rehearsal next week. And then the following week, it's the local elections. So, oh yes. However, there is a contingency plan in place. Well, there is that. Next week, we will have a rerun of an old service. Now, that sounds rather strange. Why would I bother doing that? Well, you see, next Thursday will be the 27th of April, 2023. Last year, on the 28th of April, 2022, we were served for the last time by the wonderful one and only Kevin Hales. I have spoken to Margaret, and with her comfort, permission, and encouragement, we are going to replay with a little bit extra that service in memory, in honor, and to remind people what damn good mediumship, being a true exponent of spiritualism, great philosophy, fun, upliftment, laughter, and joy really is. And so long as there is breath in my body and the doors on this place keeps opening, I will keep promoting people, whether they are here down on the physical world or up in the spirit world, kicking our backsides and playing with the technology, which I'm sure is what happened with that thing. That's the only reason the volume could have gone down, because it's in a secret menu. So I wonder if, Kevin and George and Dad and everyone was playing with the volume on that at least. But yes, so next week we will have a rerun with extra of last year's service from Kevin Hales. The reason being is, having listened to his philosophy, it is so deeply poignant from that particular service. The following week, we're going to go back to a little bit of old school. And we are going to go online fully, with a working medium giving messages to everyone who dials in and watches, or at least can get a message. Everyone watching online will have the option, a possibility, an opportunity to get a message. This includes, of course, all of you. So yes, fingers crossed, we can get all that sorted. But so, although we're not here in the village hall for a fortnight, we will be, of course, here in spirit, if you'll pardon the pun. Of course, another important comment to mention. As you can see, I'm looking after the computer tonight, which is probably a bad thing. There's no bully special prize because Hannah is poorly. and is in great need of healing. So please, please, please send your healing thoughts out to Sam and Hannah, and everyone, of course, who's impacted by the pain of her experiences. Hannah, if you are able to watch this, we are thinking of you. We will miss your encaustic art. Caroline's already sitting there with a face like a slapped bee sting. And she hasn't bought so many raffle tickets this week, so, you know, get better, get your backside back here, girl. You've got a fortnight to get yourself better. So please, everyone, send your love. But, of course, back to this Thursday, because I've already used up some of my philosophy time, as is my wont. Please, please. Thank you. Please, please, mind the wire. Please, please give a wondrous, thunderous, uplifting Littleport welcome to our medium for the evening, the lovely John Ennis. Yeah, I know he hates it when we do that. Look at that. If I close the curtains, we'll hide you. Thank you so much for coming, John, and putting up with us as you do, always. Well, friends, let's begin this evening by opening in short prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to witness your proof and your truth that life is indeed eternal. As we place this service in your care and keeping, we make the statement, as ever, that everything we do is in love, truth, and light, and only for good. Amen. Well, friends, I did mention, usually I say a few words of philosophy, and tonight's no different. Everybody knows that I'm a huge sci-fi geek. Yes, it's another one of them. And of course, tonight is the grand finale of Picard Season 3. If any of you know any spoilers and share them with me, there will be trouble. However, it's a science fiction show about a bloke on a spaceship. That's good, because it means it won't ruin it for anyone watching or me. Over the years, I mean, let's face it, over the last, 11 years that this church has been running, I have referenced science fiction a lot, usually with the connection of our healing leader in spirit, George, and our love of Babylon 5, but it's been Star Trek. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because there are themes that show up there that are very pertinent. Now, last week, I got involved in a bit of a discussion, a bit of a debate, all very cordial and formal and really, really polite and friendly, with a YouTuber, a lovely, lovely lady called Jessie. And she was expressing her concerns about there being some metaphors in the story that may have negative impact on a minority group. I didn't see that metaphor, although I understood why she saw it. But I didn't see that metaphor. And it got me thinking what she'd said. One of the things that we tend to do in society is question why minority and oppressed and brutalized groups see prejudice, perhaps when there is no prejudice. And that's a really important question. And sometimes if we engage in that conversation in the wrong way, those that are run-of-the-mill, decent, loving human beings may end up feeling like they are being put upon for that prejudice. And that's a valid argument too. But the question we have to ask is, why do oppressed minorities see prejudice in everything? The answer, my friends, is probably simpler than it sounds. Because when you spend your whole life experiencing prejudice for whatever reason, prejudice is all you recognize. Prejudice is all you notice. And prejudice is all you see. For a number of weeks, I have been talking, and in actual fact, I carried on the conversation with someone last week after the service. And I said, I'm not sure how I'm going to work that one in yet. Well, now I do. Because for a number of weeks, I've talked about light and dark. For a number of months, I've talked about that keyword, just be kind. So much so that my biggest advocate of that, who buys me naughty badges with it on, even she rolls her eyes when I mention it now. But for a number of weeks, I've talked about light and dark. And I've said that light is a presence and darkness is an absence, and it can easily be combated by inputting light. But my friends, there is a risk. There is a risk to that. That if you leave that absence to go stagnant and stale, it will become a vacuum and will draw more in than you input. It will draw in everything and consume it like a vacuum. If we're going with the sci-fi analogy, like a big black hole. And if anyone's from the Fens heard of the old phrase, like the black hole of Calcutta, whatever that is, I don't know. My grandmother used to say it. I probably should have investigated what she actually meant by that before I said it in front of all these people, but you never know. I'm hoping it's a big hole in the ground and it's not one that I'm putting myself into. Oh, you can explain later then. Okay. Well, anyway, it becomes a big vacuum, just like that conversation. And what it does is it compresses, condenses, and makes even harder the situation. Not having open, honest, and frank conversations is feeding absence. Not being open to the possibility that someone might feel different is feeding the absence. Not realizing that perhaps not everyone is against you is feeding that absence. And assuming negativity when there is pain feeds that absence too. My friends, there is no such thing as evil. There is only neglect. There is only silence. There is only ignorance. Those are the true enemy, and those are fed by a lack of nurture. Those are fed by that vacuum where people feed into that darkness. Now, one of the things in this way of life that has always driven me completely and utterly potty, and I will be honest, 25 years, I've been close to screaming my guts off. One of the things that drives me potty is that sometimes in this way of life, we like to overcomplicate things. We like to come out with fancy words and concepts and thinks that there's huge, massive things that must be done in order to fix these things. And that at the end of the day, in order to make the world a better place, if the answer seems too easy, it's probably already been tried, so we shouldn't bother. But if everyone thinks like that, nobody's bothered trying. The easy answer, the simple answer. The answer that Esther knows is going to come out of my mouth right now. Being nice. But that's not enough anymore. And it really isn't. Because nice is one of those words we just ignore, not sure about, oh, it can mean anything. It could be kind of like a half-hearted compliment about how good I am at making tea. Oh, thanks, that was nice. Sometimes we have to go a little bit deeper into it. What is just be nice actually mean? It shows kindness. It shows compassion. It shows acceptance. It shows realization that we might not be thinking the same as everyone else. We are all individuals, but we are united in our individuality. We are all part of something greater. And we are united in our fight to make all feel equal, equitable, and filled with joy. But there are those in this world who will feed the vacuum by adding negativity into that absence. They are wrong. All that matters is love and compassion and kindness. All that matters is free will and joy and friendliness. All that matters is being open to the possibility that we might think slightly different to each other. And then you can have the difficult conversations without it being a problem. You can have the discussions about how you feel without it being an attack. And you can save the world one soul at a time. Not just by being nice, but by preventing that absence from becoming a vacuum. Because once you let the air in, the breath of life into darkness, there's no such thing as a vacuum anymore. Can't be. So breathe a little light into darkness. Breathe a little joy into despair. And blow down and knock down negativity with a huff and a puff. Because it's easy. The reason it hasn't worked is because everyone's thought it was too easy to even bother. So let's go back to basics. Try a little happiness. Try a little kindness. Try a little love. And see where it takes us from there. God bless you all, and thank you for listening. They do make Alan's life difficult. Next in our evening, we're going to hear our reading from the wonderful Reverend Alan, who is waiting online and for once has a more stable connection than us. Isn't that exciting? So we're now going to have our reading. But of course, in order to do that, give me a second, we have to say the magic words. And I think we all know them by now. For those that don't, it's Reverend Alan, are you there? 1, 2, 3. Reverend Alan, are you there?
Good evening, Littleport. Good evening, everybody online. Good evening, John. Hope you're well, mate. Yes, I do have a reading tonight. I thought, how's this going to tie in after hearing your address? But I think if you look beyond and into the bigger picture, it actually does. And it's cool. I have read it before, to be fair, but it's one that particularly I like, and it's called The Man in the Glass, and it's by Dale Wimbrow. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He is the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you've passed your most difficult, dangerous test, if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. Thank you.
Absolutely, Alan, thank you. And yeah, it starts with self. Really does. what a wonderful way to put a stopper in that. Reverend Alan, thank you. Now, for those that weren't there and haven't heard, I can't make a fake name up for the Drum Healing Circle anymore because it's got a name, hasn't it?
It has.
And
White Feather Drummers.
White Feather Drummers. I was going to give you a drum roll and anything, but there you go. But yeah, White Feather Drummers. I think it's wonderful. And it means that I can't use my silly little nickname for it anymore, which somebody did suggest would be a choice, but he got vetoed. Never mind, it was worth a try. But yes, the B and B is no more. It is White Feather, and what a wonderful choice. And it was all very, it was wonderfully democratic. It was all voted on by members, and just such a wonderful thing to see. And so a big thank you to the White Feather Drummers, part of the Independent Spiritualists Alliance. Isn't that excellent?
Yeah. And it's a big thank you to all the members, only of the drum circle, but also of the actual church site that actually sent in suggestions.
Yes,
very kind of
absolutely. There was actually a great deal of suggestions coming through online from everyone. And I was so pleased to see the interaction, to show that even though it's a group in its own right, it's still part of a greater whole.
Absolutely.
And I just, long may it rain, Alan. So thank you so much.
And thank you all so much.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Alan.
Thank you.
See you later, mate. Well, friends, now is the time in the evening where you get some peace and quiet from me, and I get a really nasty hard stare from Tony, because now is the time in the evening where we're going to perform our healing. Should you wish to have healing, stick your hand up. Everyone who wishes to provide healing, get ready. Tony will explain more, but for the moment, over to Mr. Tony. And I'll plug you in.
Oh, no.
There you go.
Nothing worse than being plugged in. As Nick says, if you would like some healing, just raise your arm. Oh, blimey. Oh, there we go. That's better. No need to be shy. Right, healers, if you can, just keep your hands up so the healers know where to wander to. There we go. That's fine. It's only good. Thank you. Well, we're there. We're done. I think that. Thank you, but I think we're done. It's only good. So, healers, get yourselves sorted and ready to go, and commence when you need. Where communities are formed, communities grow. Where love resides, love grows. And where the need for healing exists, the gift of healing also grows. We are joined here today to send our thoughts and ask for healing for those present, those who will hear these words, and those who need it. And don't forget, as Nick said earlier, our Hannah's in need of it. Because where one gives healing, healing is present. Where many gather to give and receive healing, the power of love and energy is exponentially multiplied. Therefore, before the universe and the spark of life within us all, bring all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort, be sick in mind, body, or spirit. Great Spirit, let our healers heal. Thank you. Healers, bring yourselves back. Thank you.
Let's say Elijah won't be too happy. Thank you, friends. And of course, thank you to our healers, and thank you to Tony, and thank you to all for taking part. And thank you to everyone at home for sending out your healing thoughts. And so now the moment has arrived. It has come at last that we are going to invite our medium for this evening to give us his demonstration. Should he come to you, please answer in a clear voice. Yes, no, don't know. Send out your love and your thoughts to him, your upliftment too, because I know he is going to give us a very entertaining but evidential too evening, even if it is just by taking the mick out of everything I'm saying behind my back. There you go, it's already started. The upliftment, the love and the laughter can only come from the one and only John Ennis. Ladies and gentlemen, John Ennis! And guides, of course.
Plug you in, off you go. Plug me in, off we go. I don't know why he puts that on, because within 5 minutes it'll stop working, because it always does. Right. I have a problem when I do these things, because the people who are chairing always say you're going to have a good night. I don't know why you're going to have a good night listening to an old bald-headed fat bloke like me. I haven't got the faintest idea. But if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Has anything changed since the last time I was here? Yeah, I'm older, I'm bolder, and I'm fatter. Apart from that, everything is exactly the same. I'm still as daft as a brush, and I just get on with it. Those of you who haven't seen me before, please just think outside of the box. Normally I know who I'm going to, but this has happened the last 3 or 4 demonstrations that I've done. I've got a message and I don't know who it's for. Well, I do know who it's for. I think it's somebody online, but I don't know if they're online at the moment or not. It could be somebody that's here, so everybody listen, and anybody that's online, please listen. I need to give you, starting 1, connections to America, 2, connections to the fire service, 3, the fire engine is red, silver, and black. I'm also being given a gold bell, and the gold bell is a memory bell. Now, this is the important bit. I've got to give you 9/11. Now, I know 9/11 is a very important date around the world. I'm not saying it's connected to 9/11, but the person I need to talk to, 9/11 is very significant. Also, American fire engines are all numbered, and the number is either 911, which is an emergency telephone number, or 119. And I'm just going to leave that out there. It could be somebody here, it could be somebody online, but I'll just leave that message with you. The last one I did, nobody could take it. I was walking out the church. This gentleman broke down in tears and he went, "I'm sorry, mate." He says, "But the evidence you gave me was too much and I couldn't put my hand up." I went, "Don't worry about it." So then I had to take him in a room to the side to get the young lady back to give him his message. But it all worked out. So I'll just leave that message out there. Somebody may get it tonight and it's glued to it now. If not, somebody may pick it up during the week. If they do, Nick will just get in touch with me. Right, can I go to the lady with the long blonde hair, please? Well, she doesn't even know she's got blonde hair. This is going to be a good one. It is you? Yeah. You're doing right. You don't have to. God, this is going to be a hard one, this one, isn't it? I always leave the hard ones till the end. How come I picked it first? Right, the only reason I've got to come to you is because the gentleman was kind, because he let me get all that message off my chest. I've been struggling here while the service has been going on. That's why I've been drinking so much water, because I've got acid reflux with this gentleman. I've also got stomach ulcers with him as well. I know I've got trouble with his waterworks also. And he's telling me, son, he says, everything's just stopping working. I went, really? He went, yeah. He says, they put me in this bed. He says, and everything's gone downhill ever since. But I've got to say with this gentleman, he just got on with life. And he's very much a down-to-earth type gentleman. And he comes in around you because he just wants to put his arms around you and go, you're not on your own, dear. He says, I'm here and I'm looking out for you. And he does come with a lot of love and a lot of strength for you as well. He's also saying as well, I don't know if you read cards, but he says you've been reading cards for yourself. 3 of. You've been getting the same message for about the last 5 weeks. And he says, you don't believe it, do you? No, you don't, you little liar. If you believed it, you'd be acting on it. I don't know why you've got memory problems. I'm a lot older than you, and the gentleman's telling me she only read it this morning, so how the heck has she forgotten about it? Well, he's telling me he did, because he's been watching. So it's either that or you've been running something through your mind today. No, we're not going down that route. So this gentleman says, he says, you've got the answers. He says, you need to start acting on it. He says, you tell everybody else what to do. He says, now I'm telling you what to do. He says, because you do like to have confirmation from the other side for yourself. And that's why he's here. He's here to give you that confirmation. But he also wants you to know that he loves you immensely. And he is always around you. And he does come through to give you a lot of strength and a lot of support and a lot of upliftment as well. He's helping a lady come forward for you as well. Now, as this lady comes through, she's about 5'2", 5'3". She's right. I've got to say, she's telling me I've got to describe her as a cuddly lady, but a lady who knew her own mind and who didn't like being taken advantage of. And she says she used to let people go so far and then she'd bite back. She says the only thing was they didn't like it when I bit back. And she says, you're a bit like that. She says, you take so much and then you bite back. She says, but you're not as good at it as she was. Because people go, ooh, her face is changing colour, we're going to go now, bye, see you later. But she's saying it stood you in good stead. She says, you've always been a good judge of character. She says, you can't help it if other people change as you get to know each other. She says, but she says, don't stop using the gifts you've got. She says, because you've got so many gifts, but you've got so many gifts that are still unused at the moment. She says, so it's only a matter of time, but it's slowly but surely. Why she's here as well is she's saying, you know how you should be looking after yourself. She says, but you've not been doing it recently. And she says, you need to start looking after yourself. She says, because you can't help everybody else if you're not helping yourself at the same time. Okay. So, okay. She says, you know how to tell the time. So breakfast is between 7 and 9 in the morning. The morning is when you get out of bed if you've gone to bed. Otherwise, it's when you wake up and you're on the settee and the telly's turned itself off because it's gone to sleep. Lunchtime is 11 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Yes, you know, normally when the news comes on, that's lunchtime. She says, and then tea time's between 5 and 7 at night. She says, in case you can't remember, rewind 3 weeks. When it starts getting dark, that's when you're supposed to have your tea. So she's saying, why is it you only ever have something to eat just as you're about to fall asleep? She says she does, because you have yourself something to eat, because that keeps you awake, and then you can do what you should have done about 7 or 8 hours earlier. I'm not correct. I'm just telling you what this lady's telling me. I'm as daft as a brush, me. So, but no, as I say, but this lady, she is coming through with a lot of love for you. But she does want you to start looking after yourself a little bit better. She says, because if you look after yourself a little bit better, she says you'll be able to help a lot more people. And when you're helping people, you're at your best. So she says there's a lot going on. I don't know what she's on about, but she's saying you need to start decluttering and you need to start packing them boxes. Now, I don't know if you've just moved in or if you're moving out, but she's on about a house move coming up for you. You of all people should know better than to say that. What's the lady's name? You know the actress who was the witch? And she's got this real high-pitched cackling noise. Well, that's what I've got laughing in my ear hole. There's every word you said, that it's just got more high-pitched and high-pitched and high-pitched. They're just laughing their heads off at you. So you can say it as much as you want. In spirit, no, you're going to be moving. So I'm going to give you that. The gentleman's just come in and he says, will you make your mind up? He says, no wonder you never get anywhere. He says, you're supposed to be, but you come out of the bottle. Oh, it's not me, it's them. The only trouble is he knows I'm telling you the truth because he's linking into me. I'm glad you do. I ain't got the Scooby-Doo. I'm just telling you what they're telling me. Here. No, I'm not bringing the wig. No, don't you come back again. I had enough. You get me in enough trouble as it is. Except that bit. I know we've just had a laugh about witches, but I don't know why, but I've got to give you a broom. Yeah, I don't know. I've got to give you a broom. Don't ask me why. They just said give her a broom. So I'm going to give you a broom. And I'm going to leave all their love, strength and support with you. So thank you very much. I'm going out the door now because I've already done myself hole and I've only done one. Right. Okay. Right. Can I go to the lady in the green, please? Hiya. Right. As I'm with you, I'm going to try and calm it down at all. As I came across the road and I saw you stood outside tonight, you had a lady stood next to you and you had a gentleman stood behind the lady. The gentleman is my height, 5'8", 5'9", but he's quite stockily built. I'm seeing him as a younger man rather than an older man. The lady is about 5'4", 5'5". She's quite a rounded lady. My feet are starting to swell up, so I know I've got problems with my feet. And I've got to say my legs are starting to swell up as well. So it's as if there's a water or fluid retention with this lady. And as she's coming in around you, she's just saying, will you slow down, she's saying, and take a step back. She says, there's so much going on around you at the minute. She says, you're not seeing things clearly. So she says, you need to slow down and take a step back. And if you take that step back, you'll be able to see things a lot clearer. She also wants to know why you've not gone back to school like you promised everybody that you were going to. Because she says you need them qualifications. She says, because if you got them qualifications, you could have had that job that you saw for 2 weeks ago, but you hadn't got the qualifications, so you couldn't do it. She says, but you can get the apprenticeship, so why aren't you doing that instead? So she says, you've got to go for it. You've got to go for it. She says, you're your own biggest enemy. She says, and she was the same. She would talk herself out of things and you talk yourself out of things. And you think, oh, I can't do that because they rely on me. And I can't do that because they rely on me. She says, but them relying on you, she says, so why are you sat at home twiddling your thumbs half the day doing nothing? So she says, come on, she says, it's about getting out there and doing what you need to do. But she does come through with a lot of love at the same time for you. She's also saying as well, she knows finances haven't been that good for you. She says, but slowly but surely they're starting to improve. She says, but that doesn't mean to say that you can go out and get pictures all up your arms and legs. She says, because you can't afford to have that many done all at once. Huh? Yeah, well, she's kicking off again because she's saying you can't afford it. She says the money needs to be used on something else. So she says there's no good getting half a dozen done. She says you can have half of one done or one done. She says, but not booking for half a dozen all in one hit. She's saying you need to sort your priorities out. But she's saying you're getting better and you're getting better. The gentleman, as he comes in, I'm getting a little bit short of breath with this gentleman. I'm asking him why he's talking so quick. He says, it's the only way I'll get a word in edgeways. He says, because if all the other women come through, he says, I haven't got a cat and mouse chance. But with this gentleman, with this gentleman, I've got to say he is a very quiet man, but at the same time, he could be a very strong man as well. He's also telling me as well, you like this, he says, I can be stubborn as well, can't I? And when he digs his heels in, he digs his heels in. If I'm not going, I'm not going, and that's it, end of story. So he says he's not for changing. He says, but he just used to walk out rather than avoid conflict. He didn't like conflict in the family or outside of it. But this gentleman, as I say, he's got a lot of pride in you because he says you've achieved a lot. He said, and as much as people try to put you down, he says, you're like him. You just keep bouncing back. You've done it once, it didn't work. Try again. But you're bigger and stronger every time that you come back. And he says, that's going to carry on. That's going to carry on. He says, but this year is all about you bringing forward all the plans you've had on hold for the last 2 or 3 years. He's saying, come on, go for it, and go for it in a big way. He's also saying as well that you do need to move forward because the young lady sat on your right will soon be catching you up. And if you want to help her, you need to start moving on and moving forwards because he says you two bounce off each other. The only problem is she's more like you than you actually realise. And we're on about the inside, not just on the outside. Well, okay. Anybody who wants to see a good argument, go around their house. So, well, what the gentleman's telling me, he says it's EastEnders, Emmerdale Farm, Coronation Street, and neighbours all rolled into one in her house. So he's just saying, he says, life's for living, he says, so get out there and start living again. Yeah, he says you put everything on hold for long enough. So it's all about now getting out and doing what you need to do. So from both of them, a lot of strength, a lot of love and a lot of support. And I'm going to leave all that when we say thank you very much. Can I go to the gentleman in the blue, sir, please? As I'm with you, I've got a gentleman coming in for you. Now, as this gentleman comes in, he's about 5'9", 5'10" in height. So he's up to here. I'm going to say he feels quite stockily built. But he's telling me he's actually a little bit overweight for his size. I says, really? He says, yeah. He says, I've got a terrible sweet tooth. I said, well, so have I. Don't worry about it. And he's going, yeah, but my belly's bigger than your belly, son. I said, yeah, but you drink more cups of tea than I do. He's going, yeah, but I drink more cups of coffee than he does. So we're having a little argument between the two of us. But he's coming in around you, sir, because he's saying there's been a lot of change going on around you the last 12 to 18 months. He said, and your life has changed completely from what it was. He says, but it has now changed for the better. He says, you did fight it, but then suddenly you decided, I'll go with it and see what happens. And he says, because of that, he says, you've got more people around you now who you call friends who will support you. He says, the big difference is the friends you've got now are proper friends. He says, and they're always there to support you. And they're always there to give you that guidance. He says, the important thing about friends is you don't have to be in each other's pockets all the time. You pick the phone up or text somebody, you'll get a reply. So you may not see them, but they will give you that advice, or if you want, hold your hand and take you on the next part of your journey. So he's saying, be proud of who you are. He says, and be proud of the direction that you're going in. Also, with this gentleman, I'm very aware that he would not have understood the spiritualist movement at all. But then he's saying he didn't understand religion at all, really. He says he had it forced on him when he was growing up. He says, but to him, everything was like a load of mumbo jumbo. If you can't see it, why do you believe in it? But he says he understands spiritualism, and he understands why you were drawn to it. And he says it's helped you, but more importantly, it's helped you understand what you went through in your childhood. Because he says it's proven to you that you weren't mad. And he says even today you can still see things and sense things when other people can't. And he said it's a gift that you were born with. He says and you can't change it and you can't take it away. It's just there. It's how you wish to use it is your choice. Either the lady said there, it's free will, so you've got your own choice. But he just wants you to know how proud of you he is. He's also saying as well that if you want to upgrade your qualifications, he says, you go for it. He says, but do it in your own time. But he's saying, you're quite a sensible young man. He said, so get employers to pay for your qualifications. In case you don't know what that means, that normally means apprenticeships. So you get the qualifications, but you're getting paid at the same time. So he says, you've got the best of both worlds. He says, you've got money going in your pocket, the qualification at the end of it, and it's not costing you a penny. He says, so it's a win-win, no-brainer. There's a lady who wants to come in as well. Now, as this lady comes in, she's about 5'2", 5'3". I get a tightness in the chest with this lady. I have got issues around the heart area with her. It's not a stroke or a heart attack. It's more like angina with her. And I do feel with this lady that she was, although she was small in stature, she was quite a force to be reckoned with. Because I'm not saying everybody played by her rules, but she liked things done her way. And she's telling me she didn't have a lot in the house, but what she had in the house was hers. And she looked after it. But she just comes around you with a lot of love. She's also saying as well, she said, I'm glad I'm not around there now. I says, why? She says, he's got an appetite on him like nobody's business. Says he eats everybody out of house and home, that one. Sorry, I've got to let the gentleman come in. I don't know who the heck he is, but that was him coughing. And it is a smoker's cough. And I'm going to say I've got a cancer condition with this gentleman as he comes in. And he's telling me he was very headstrong and he was very stubborn. And he liked things done his way. He's saying if he'd gone to the doctors or told people earlier, would things have been different? He said, no, it wouldn't. He said, everything had gone too far. So he's joining the other gentleman and the lady, and they're coming in around you, as I say, with a lot of strength, a lot of love, a lot of guidance, but they're just saying, remember, take a deep breath rather than diving in head first. Just take a deep breath, give yourself a few seconds to think about it. He says, and when you think about it, everything will start coming to you. So I'm going to leave all that with you. So thank you very much. Can I close to the lady on the end on the front row, please? As I'm with you. Oh, blimey, thank goodness for that. He's gone. It's all right. I can breathe again now and can talk properly. Right, as I'm with you now, I've got a lady coming in for you. Now, as this lady comes in, she's quite a slender lady. She's about 5'5", 5'6". She's got lightish brown hair. It's quite thick, and I want to say it's naturally curly. Not tight curls, a little bit like yours are now, but hers is natural. She says she don't use pokers like you do to get the curls in them. Hers are natural. But she's quite a slender lady as I see her. But I want to say she's quite a clever lady as well. But I'm not going to say it's mother or grandmother. I'm going more an auntie. But on dad's side of the family rather than mum's side of the family. Then she's coming in around you to give you a lot of strength. But she's saying, you've got lots of plans and you've got lots of ideas for the future. She says, but will you deal with the present first? She says, it's all right looking forwards and all right looking backwards. She says, but you need to deal with what's happening today and what's happening tomorrow. But she's saying things on life, right, that's better. Life now for you is starting to get easier. You can see what direction your life and your family's life is now going in. Where before everyone was going in different directions. But so she's saying, just slow yourself down a little bit. She says, and keep listening to what people are saying. Now, when she's sat on about people are saying, she's on about professional people. But then she's saying she doesn't trust professionals as far as she can throw them in some cases. But she says, you've been a good judge of character anyway. So you know which ones you can trust and which ones you can't trust. So, but she's saying there's going to be a lot of change this year, but it's all positive. And she's saying you've been waiting a while, but things are now in the ascendancy for you. So it's all now about moving on and moving forwards. I don't know how old your daughter is, but what they're saying is, don't push her, guide her. Because the more you push her, the more she'll rebel against it. So if you guide her in the right direction, but she will succeed in life. It's just she doesn't always know what she wants to do. It's all right for young ladies to change their mind. So don't worry about it. But you'll know yourself. Because I've got to say her outlook on life is very similar to what yours has always been. Although she's a young lady, she learns very quickly. And she'll carry on learning very quickly. But there is so much going your way. And it's just about you looking forwards and staying strong. She's also saying as well, you need to try and take the holiday this year. Even if it's only like a long weekend, she says, you all just need a change of scenery. She says it can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you want it to be. So, but from this lady, there is a lot of love and a lot of strength. And I'll leave all that one with you because I need to get the gentleman, because I want to bring a gentleman through for you. I don't know if it's dad or granddad, but he's telling me he's a very stubborn man. He says he wasn't always there the way he should have been. And the way your friends' dads were there for them, he wasn't there for you. He's also telling me as well that he had a very short views on him. But he says, the man you are today, you've made yourself. And he says, it hasn't been easy for you. He said, but he says, you look at your children, he says, and they value every minute of the day that they spend with you. And they love you to bits. He says, and that, he says, you've not even tried. He said, it's just the way you've always been with the family. He said, and he what he's saying is, he never really had that bond with any of them. But he wants you to know that he's very proud of you, but also that he's sorry as well for not being there and not doing what he should have done. But he says, what he's saying as well is, there's some choices coming your way this year. He says, and it's up to you what you want to do with them. He says, you can either grasp them and go with it, or you can just push it to the side and take a little bit of thinking time. But he's saying they're going to benefit you in the longer term. So he's also saying as well, and there is a lady coming in who's going to confirm it. He's just saying, don't worry about the finances. Everything's starting to sort itself out for you now. He says, so it's only going to get better. And as the lady comes in, she's about 5'4", 5'5". She's got silvery grey hair. She does wear glasses. She's got a round neck jumper on. She's got a pinafore dress on the top of that. She's got a full length apron on. She's got her slippers on, but it's the slippers where her toes are sticking out the end. They're not supposed to, they're just worn away. But she says they were comfortable. And this lady, I know with this lady, she was at her happiest in the kitchen, but she was also happy if the children were smiling. And she says, you're like that. She says, you can be happy in the kitchen, but you're even happier when you see the children laughing and joking. And she said, that's because you've always been a very kind, loving and understanding man, even as a young man. She says, but it took you a while to realise it. She says, but when you did, you've started to use that to your advantage. And she says, not that you take advantage of situations, but you've got a habit of being able to say the right things at the right times, even to complete strangers. And she said, it's a gift that you've been given. It's not something that can be taught or learnt. So she says, be very proud of what you've achieved and be very proud of what you're going to achieve. She's just also saying as well that she doesn't see you in the kitchen as much as she used to. She says, but you know how to look after yourself anyway. So from her, a lot of love. From the gentleman, as I say again, he's apologising, but he's also very proud to look down on you and see how you've turned out. And I'm going to leave all that with you, sir, so thank you very much. Okie dokie. In other words, that's my warning. 3, 2 if you're really quick, 1 if you're not. Right, I'll go to the lady with the lilac, pink, purple. That's it. As I'm with you, I've got a lady coming in for you. This lady, she's only about 5 foot, maybe 5'1". She's quite a rounded lady. She's quite a cuddly lady. And then she's just turned around and says, don't wind me up the wrong way, boy. I'm going, okay, I won't. I said, what's the problem? She says, they keep trying to wind you up, don't they? She says, they're not getting very far. And she's going, that daughter of yours, she says, she don't half push it at times, don't she? She says, but you've wised up to it now. She says, it took you long enough. She says, but you're getting there. But what she's saying for you is she understands the stress that you've been under recently. She said, she can't say it's going to get any easier for you. But what she's saying is you've got a very strong coping mechanism and you've got a lot of support. around you. So she says, as you are finding out, it helps to talk, and the more you talk, the more support you get. She says, you don't have to bottle everything up and deal with it yourself. Okay, right, that's a weird one. I know you've been, because I've seen the photos a couple of years ago. Okay, I've got to give you a Harley Davidson motorbike. I've got you in a pair of shorts and a leather waistcoat. I don't know what it is with the gentleman, but they put him in leather trousers and a leather waistcoat. And I've got to put you back on Route 66 because they said you need to go again and you need to go and let your hair down. The only problem is this time you will have to think really hard about whether to come back or not, because there's a draw, not just for you, but for both of you. There's a very strong draw. And they're saying, why shouldn't you have what you want for a change? But she's saying, everything's good, everything's good. Whoever it is that hasn't been well at the moment, this lady's telling me that she's been around them and she's been giving them that strength and that support that they need, purely to give you more time for yourself and your family so that you can get on with what you want to get on with. There is a gentleman who comes in as well. He's only a little bit taller than the lady. He's quite a, I was going to say slender. He's saying no, skinny. I'm going, okay. And he's making me wear all his clothes are too big for him. And I'm saying, why is that? And he's going, I lost a lot of weight. So I'm going to say he wasn't an overly big man, but he did lose some weight in the last 2 or 3 years. But he's telling me he never lost his sense of humour. He says, but then again, he says, a lot of people didn't understand my sense of humour. He says, because it was different to everybody else's. But he took great enjoyment in winding people up, he's telling me. He says, you're a bit like that, aren't you? He says, the only people is you've got a funny sense of humour and nobody realises that you're trying to wind them up half the time. But he says, keep doing it, keep doing it. He says, keep being you. He says, it's what keeps you young. He's on about your knees, but in particular your left knee. He's going, if it keeps playing up, if you can, he says, try and talk to somebody about it or go and see. He says, it's not serious, but the longer you leave it, the harder it will be to get it fixed or sorted out. But as I say, there's a lot of strength, a lot of guidance and a lot of love coming to you. And I'm going to leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the gentleman with the stripy shirt on, please, sir?
Something about that, bro.
I'm going to say, is there something about that, right? Are you all related? She don't know what hair colour she's got. And you don't know what clothes he's wearing. Right. As I'm with you, sir, I've got 2 gentlemen coming in for you. Now, one gentleman, he's coming in. He's 5'10", 5'11". I'm not quite on my tiptoes, so he's not 6 foot. But he comes in. Not a word I would use. Don't even know what it means. He's telling me he's a dapper. I mean, and I said, does that mean you look smartly dressed? He went, yeah. But also with him, I'm getting a military uniform as well. And he's telling me he was very proud of his time in the military, but he didn't like talking about it because he says he would only talk to people about it who had been in the same situation as him. He says what the family didn't know wouldn't hurt them. He says, but then he says, you've got all these new-fangled things today, he says, and you can trace family trees, he says, and people suddenly go, no, he can't have done that. He can't have been there. He's going, yeah, I was. He said, where do you think all the medals come from? But he's here around you, sir, and the other gentleman who comes in now, oh, God, blimey, I've got 2 of them. So I've had 1, I've got another 2. The next one who comes in is 6 foot, maybe 6'1". I'm going to say he's quite a muscular gentleman as well, considering his size. The other gentleman who comes in, can I say he's normal? He's about 5'7", 5'8". He's not from Land of the Giants. And he's telling me he's not built like the others, where the others are either muscular and slim. I'm built for comfort, me. I'm going, why? He says, well, I'm not into fitness. He says, but I like my food. I like a drink. He says, I like my mugs of tea. He says, what's better? He's also on about he likes to potter about in the garden as well. And he says, you like pottering about. He says, but you're like him. You don't really know what you're doing. You just like going out there and getting out the way. He says, it's the only way you can think. He says, it's a bit of peace and quiet as well. Leave him alone. But then he's saying you're not like him because he had to use that to hide round the back of the shed. He says, so we could have a crafty smoke. He says, but you're not like him. Because he says he told everybody he'd stop smoking. He says the only thing was when people used to go down the garden, he says there was more fag ends around the back of the shed than there was in the shops. But no, all the three of the men are coming in around you, sir, because they're saying they're here to give you a bit of strength. But the reason they're giving you this strength is because they're saying when you go to bed at night time, you've got so much going on in your mind, you're not actually sleeping properly. Because he says, if you listen to the people closest to you, they'll go, who the heck are you talking to last night? Who were you fighting with? He says, and you wake up and you're tied up in knots in the bedclothes and everything else. You're tossing and turning all the time. He says, try and change your drinking habits before you go to bed. So if you drink a lot of tea, try coffee. If you drink a lot of coffee, try tea or a milky drink or water. He says that may help. But they're just giving you that little bit of strength just to help you through the day. Also, as well, the first gentleman who come in, I know he's got very nice handwriting. And he's telling me that you're supposed to be doing writing. Now, whether it's writing as in letters, whether it's writing as in legal stuff, or whether it's you just putting memories down, I don't know. But he says you should be doing some writing. He's also saying as well, if you want to explore your spiritual side, then go for it. He says, because it does run in the family, but on the women's side of the family. But the men can do it, but they chose not to do it. All I can say is the first man who come in and the smaller man who came in, they would always know if somebody was about to pass or somebody had passed, but they never said anything. I'm not saying you get that, but you do get funny feelings at times around people. And he says, look back through your life, he says, some of the decisions you've made, you've sort of gone, why did I choose that? But it worked out for you. He said, so sometimes it's about just understanding what I feel is right. And he said, when you go with your heart and your gut instincts, he says, you've never been wrong. He says, sorry, I've got to take the mickey. I'll take it out myself. I used to be blonde, right? He says, blondes, he says, go with the head and they end up in lots of trouble. He says, but if you go with your heart and your stomach, he says, normally they're in balance. He says, and that's when you're right. So it's just all about you. Oh, okay. I don't know who's got DIY planned for you. But what I will say is, if it's you, well, whoever's got DIY planned for it, get somebody in who knows what they're doing. Because otherwise, it could cost 2 or 3 times what it should do. So he's all right with a paintbrush, but anything bigger than, no, don't even give him a screwdriver. No, because he could end up with holes in his hands and everything. And as for hammers, no, because you'll spend more time in casualty than you will anywhere else. But there's just a lot of strength. I don't know why. There's a lady who just wants quickly to be remembered to you. She's about 5'2". She's got a pinafore dress on. It's halfway between her knees and her ankles. She's very slow on her feet. Her breathing is quite laboured at times, and I can hear a chesty rattle. But she said, "I was always like that, dear." She says, "If I was around today, they'd say it was hay fever or allergies or whatever." She says, "I just had it." She says, "And I just got on with life." And she says, "At times, that's what you're like. You just get on with life." And she says, "It stood you in good stead, and it's going to continue to stand you in good stead." So it's just all about moving on and moving forwards. I don't know if you've got a brother in spirit, because somebody's just saying, "Tell him, hi, bro, I'm all right, and I'm doing what I've always wanted to do." And it must be something important, because he says, "I've got me Vespa scooter and a Parker." You've got to go back a little bit. Oh, you're more a suit and a tie man, aren't you? Yeah, you were more the mod. Well, I'm going to say your brother was more the rocker. So he just wants to be remembered to you, and he just wants you to know that he does be around you a great deal. So I'm going to leave all that with you, sir, and say thank you very much. Is that it? And he's stuck his thumb up at me, so I'm going to sit down and shut up and pass you back to Nick. Thank you all for coming. Been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you all again soon. You sound as if you need to move in, mate.
Yeah. Not with. I'll tell you what. Ironically, when we used to have the old microphone, yes, that would blow up as soon as touch you. This one's always looked after you, to be fair. But even in spite of the fact that our technology is a bit rubbish at the moment, I think it's a signal or a wire. We'll fix it. We always do. But friends, a big thank you to our medium for this evening, John Ennis, and friends. Thank you all for your wonderful support and upliftment, and thank you for being part of tonight. And a big thank you to John for such wonderful evidence. You've had praise and upliftment sent from home. In fact, you've had a young lady I know in France saying how wonderful you are. So you are, I think we was... She's actually originally from Devon, so be careful about using the English language. Exactly. But no, in all seriousness, thank you. And, you know, it always is uplifting to have you with us. So thank you, John. Especially at a time where we need upliftment in our lives. We will always be a beacon of laughter, love, upliftment, hope, but today especially of cake. Of cake. I think it might well have been. But yes, for those that haven't heard yet, we have cake. A certain young lady has decided to practice on us for her celebrations of the coronation. And I say practice on us as much as you want and as often as you want. In actual fact, if you want to see how the triple stack goes, we'd be more than happy to help you figure out if it works. But thank you all so very, very much. And thank you all for your companionship, your friendship, your support and laughter. I know that life gets in the way sometimes. I know that times can be a struggle, and I know that sometimes behind every smile is a grimace, behind every joke is a frown, and behind every soft smile is a wish for more. All I can say is, if we all remember that we're all in the same boat. We can all grab an oar, stick our oar in, and get somewhere special. So thank you all, friends. God bless you all. And let's close this evening in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to witness your proof and your truth that life is indeed eternal. As we go out into the world, let us take with us the message of friendship, of happiness, of laughter and joy, and also eternal life. A gift that is not reserved for the special or the unique, not reserved by ritual or practice for those that know secrets and mysteries, but is an honorable gift to each person, each individual, each soul, regardless of thought or practice. All that matters, of course, is kindness. So until we meet again, we ask you not to move the mountain. Just give us the strength to climb. In your name, amen. Amen. Indeed. Well, friends, that brings us almost to the end of the evening. A reminder that we're not here in the hall next week, but we will be online with a little bit of a chat, maybe a few guests, and a rerun of a wonderful, wonderful evening with a wonderful man, Kevin Hales. So I do look forward to joining you all for that. The following week, we will be fully cyber church again. I've got to tell you, right, people think that being a minister is easy. People think that being a minister, people will doff their cap at you and be polite and friendly and treat you with some certain reverence. A question was asked, so what are we going to do the 2 weeks that we're off? I said, I think we should at least have an online church. You better! You know who you are, dear. And I love it. I love it. It is absolutely, well and truly, absolutely the right thing. And I would be worried if people didn't talk to me like that. So when it comes to airs and graces, mine are hanging out the window along with my butt cheeks. But there you go. Especially when I say things that I don't know what they mean, but I did Google it during the service. Ouch. At least it was the right topic, let's be honest with you. It did tie in spiritually. But there you go. For those that are interested, I'll be back online tomorrow at 4 p.m. with the lovely Reverend Tony. For the 2 Revs on philosophy, we're building up quite a conversation there. And it is a conversation. And that's the most important thing. You, as members of the online congregation, decide where the conversation goes, and it gets steered by you. I know that there's a number of people in the room who do join in, and still, in fact, yes, of course, the question for last week that went up on the screen was given by the lovely young lady who's just covering her head up there. See, if you hadn't done nothing, I couldn't have singled you out. But it is good to see you traveling all this way as well. So thank you. And thank you to all of you who travel, be it 5 minutes or 5 hours. It really does make a difference. So God bless you all. And now is the time that we will say goodbye to everyone at home. So we can have a raffle, albeit without bully special prize. Sorry, Caroline. Hannah, we are thinking of you. Healing thoughts from everyone, online and here to you. And yes, we will have a raffle without bully special prize. But we will have a cup of tea, a conversation, and more importantly, cake. So after 3, 1, 2, 3 from everyone here. Good night. Oh. And God bless you all.